Welcome. Welcome to tonight's video or tonight's class. I'm excited to have you here. Tonight we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're doing a still life. And I actually did film this last night because I wasn't quite sure how the camera work would all work out. And so, yeah, follow along with me tonight. If you're tuning in tonight, let me know that you are here. Tell us where you're tuning in from tonight. And if you have any questions, put them in our comments as well. Tonight we have a still life. You will see the still life that I've set up. If you are a student, you will have a worksheet for this particular still life. But I've encouraged students really to set up your own still life at home and get started kind of drawing from life. The stranger that you can choose things, like if they're strange tools or have weird shapes, the better it is for you because you can kind of not be on autopilot, but you're really paying attention to what you're drawing. And so if you're a student and you want to set up your own still life, I wholly encourage that. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy this class. We're going to paint this next week. And, you know, we might have different things if you're doing a different kind of still life or if you're doing it from my worksheet as well. I saw that one student already has attempted to do this drawing. And so I think that's really cool. And I just want to say thanks also to everyone who's supported the calendar release. Some of you ordered some calendars, and I really appreciate that. And appreciate your support always. And all right, without further ado, let's get started and let's hit it. Let's try to draw together. Welcome to tonight's class. This is a little bit of a different take on our typical classes. This is really, I thought this would be a really good class to kind of teach you how to see things. And so I have set up a little still life here. If you're a student, I have included that image and sent it to you in case you want to just draw along with me by using the image. But I've set up this area in my studio so you can kind of see how I would approach a still life. It's been a long time since I've done a still life, so this is really going to push me, and I hope it pushes you or at least gets you to think differently about ways that you can liven up your art practice. I have some pretty benign things here for our still life, but if you want to have unusual objects in your still life, I highly recommend it. I have 5 here. I think an odd number is good. I may regret having all these 5 objects, but you might want to start with 3. If it's a weird object that you wouldn't normally draw, that's all the better, because really this is a way to teach yourself how to see, and seeing is part of drawing, in my opinion. So without further ado, let's get started. We're filming this on my phone, so we'll see how this goes. But I have behind me some watercolor paper. You can use drawing paper too. I've taped it to this board here just to give it a little bit of stability. And I'm just going to be using a couple of pencils. Really, I'll be using this pencil to sketch it in, and then we can go in with a little more detail with another pencil. I also have a kneaded eraser, just in case you might need to erase something. But we're going to try to start this loose and work from there. All right, without further ado, let's get started. Of course, as we get started, I'm going to put this image that I'm looking at, or as close to as what I'm looking at, on the screen here so you can see it as well. But I really want you to see how I'm gonna work here. This is definitely going to be a challenge for me, and I'm going to use my pencil. You'll see me doing this a lot, and it's me measuring angles and just trying to get a semblance of something here drawn out and on our paper. And we can start really loose. I think for this exercise, I'm going to start with this big shape because a lot of these shapes are in relation to this big guy here. And so I will continue to kind of work on this and we'll get started. My hope is that we can get this going in an hour, at least get a sketch in, and you can see how I might approach this. Again, you can use my image or you can use your own imagery to get started. So I'm going to start with my big mason jar, and you may not be able to see this very well because it's very light, but I'm starting with the mouth of the jar. And the one thing that you should know is when we look at ovals, they're not like an eye, like a human eye, but they have rounded corners and they are thicker in the middle and they get smaller on the outside. And so I'm just trying to get this kind of in. In order for you to be able to see, I enlarged my paper here. I think that's probably the best idea. And so hopefully this will focus. And let's see here. Okay. All right, so I moved in actually in hopes that you'd be able to see this a little better. And I can just kind of talk you through it. So I'm going to leave the image to the left and we are going to get started. So of course you're going to want to stand back at some point and look at this, but right now we're just blocking in shapes. So I know that my lip here for this is about this far down. You can see I'm pretty loose here. And this shape actually goes through, which is just another kind of oval. Which needs a little cleaning up, but that's why we have our eraser. And I'm not going to worry about it too much. And my jar has a slight curve here. So I am starting with this biggest shape here. And I've been told that drawing down, your lines down, is easier to get a straight line that way. So we'll try to get it as straight as we can. This is really good practice for me too. And I'm kind of touching this so I can kind of see it's sort of squared off, but it's really hard to see that. So we don't really need to worry about that so much. But I can see at the angle that I'm sitting at that this is more round than the top is. I'm a little off here, but again, there we go. And this bottle over here, it comes in a little bit and extends past this jar. I'm probably going to have to move this whole drawing upward to accommodate some of my paint tubes here. But because I've drawn this pretty lightly, I'm going to go quite a bit up here. Because I will come off the page, I think. So we'll kind of raise this up a little. Straighten that out a little bit. We will come in and correct some things here, and I'm using a 2H pencil, so this is a light pencil. I also have this oval shape over here, and I kind of check to see where it comes in to my main jar here. So it might come over halfway. Technically, this would be an oval shape as I look at this front part. And from my viewpoint, I can go all the way around. This nice curve here. And then we have this dome. Now again, we're kind of working loose here. We have this band around it. It is also another oval shape. And this kind of, it wraps around here. This is a little bit wider in the front. And of course, we just kind of got after it here. When you're at home and you're working on this yourself, I highly recommend just really sitting and looking at your objects for a little bit and just really kind of looking and seeing them there. Because I think that will really help you. Okay, so I raised this. I'm going to just kind of remove some of that distraction. Okay. Gotta make sure we're still recording here. Of course, then I have this little, from my viewpoint here, I have this little jar, and it comes maybe midway here. And we have this round lid. It's an oval, another oval. When I was in graduate school, we had to do oval after oval after oval. It's a good exercise to do. And I have textured paper here, so that's helping a little bit. So we have our lid. So again, you can choose to do this, what we're doing here, or have your very own still life for our painting class that will happen next week when we get together. Okay. And I have this wider part here of this bottle. So I'm just kind of trying to round that out. And it comes about, I think, here in comparison with our wide mouth jar. Of course, this bottom has or bottle has a round bottom, so it's always good to draw through. Just so you can make sure that you have your kind of curve represented here. So I have 3 of these objects really roughed in and placed. Now I have a couple of paint tubes, and for me, I'm going to use my pencil to figure out at what angle are they at. So I've got one that's kind of you can see I'm using my pencil. Hopefully you can see that. You may not be able to see it. I'm using my pencil to show me the angle. So I'm aligning it with my paint tubes and trying to see where it aligns. So it's a little more at an angle than I first thought. I've got this cap that probably actually kind of aligns here. And I have another paint tube that sort of goes this way. So I'm just kind of finding the angle that it's at. And we're going to do this kind of in quick time, but, or I say that, and we probably won't be super quick time. I also can see by comparing the lid of my paint tube with the lid of this bottle, that this bottle lid could be maybe a hair bigger, or the paint tube could be a little bit smaller. So you're always kind of assessing where are things aligned to one another and how are they size-wise with another. You can use a measurement, like maybe you might measure this bottle and compare how big your paint tube is to that. So if I hold out my pencil and I'm looking straight ahead at my bottle, I can see how big is that compared to my paint tube. They're pretty equidistant, but this just happens to be in front of the other item. Now Now this is getting a little, I need to round it out a little. Now I highly recommend just sketching paper for this, but I used this paper because it was what I had that was big enough. Okay, so my paint tube, it's also kind of this oval shape here. And as it comes closer to the viewer, it gets a little bit bigger. Same here, we have this oval. And of course I have to kind of measure and make sure that I have my, that's going the right direction. This is actually a little bit closer to this. Actually, I think this is a little bit bigger. So maybe I'm going to back this up a little bit. This is the lid of my paint tube. And I can see quite a bit of this, the top of the tube here. This feels a little bit straight on. And we have this little bit of the lid that is and I keep moving forward and backwards, so I again, I'm testing these angles to see where things align. Just kind of roughing in that shape. Now I think I see that this tube from where I'm sitting should be moved over and pushed up a little bit. And I'm just looking at these relationships between all these things together. You're going to continue to correct things and improve them. So this needs to go over a little bit more. And the reason that you kind of start with the bigger shapes and getting them things situated is so you don't go off the page, kind of like I am doing. So that's why measuring, starting with your big shapes and whittling down to your smaller shapes is a good thing to do. And being able to draw through, that's good too. So I think this is definitely something that I want to practice more, is just drawing in real time from life. Because it does make you a better artist. It helps train your eye. And if you get lost on an angle, continue to use that pencil of yours. And sometimes I like to, kind of sketch in a shape. It might help me, or shade in a shape, because that might help me see what I'm drawing there. I feel like my jars are a little off kilter, which you want to stand back from them and kind of take a look. See. I think this needs to be more at an angle. And this label sort of flattens out and kind of rounds around the edge. It's a little rounder up at the top just because there's a lot of paint in there. It's not been maybe flattened out like it is at the bottom here. I also think I can make this shape a little bit bigger. Now when I'm painting, sometimes I use a maul stick. So here would be my maul stick. And sometimes it's handy to be able to rest your hand on something so you can have a steady hand. So all of this will shift. But I think I can maybe extend. Now, of course, when I shift my position, it's going to change the whole, we'll change our whole view here. But now that I have these shapes kind of blocked in, I can refine them. And keep playing with them and keep correcting them. So I can continue to kind of draw through and make sure I have the right shapes. I need to bring this up a little. I'm not even going to attempt to do what's happening here. I don't think you can kind of allude to it, and we have this kind of measuring line here. Okay. So we have this lower ring that is in an oval. Again, it's widest at the top and the bottom. And I kind of have a hint here. And then we have one above it. I'm just going to be pretty parallel here. Kind of have this inner part of this ring is a little bit darker. I definitely think this is testing my glasses here to see what I'm seeing. I do know of artists who actually do portraits and they use binoculars to see the details because they need to be able to see up close. And as you get older, it gets a little bit harder. So we have this first ring, we have the second ring, and then we kind of have our lip up here. And it's inside a little bit more. Now I think I've made mine a little bit taller than the actual jar, a little bit as I'm looking at it. But we're going to work with it here. Now we're going to take this and we're going to paint it, or we're going to take our drawing, we're going to trace the drawing that we've done here, and then we're going to paint it. But this would be a great pen and ink sort of practice too, if you wanted to use the picture to create your lights and darks too. Now this guy is a little bit off. And when you're drawing anything, your vertical lines are always going to be straight. So if that helps you figure out things that in perspective a little bit, I hope that helps. As straight as you can actually draw 'em. Like I can see my lid there is a little bit off. Just using my darker, that's a 4B pencil. So that's kind of dark here, but if it helps me see things a little bit better, that is great. This will also help me see that I need to bring that down a little. Still could make this a little bit. And you'll notice as you drag your hand around, you're going to drag it around your drawing. And you'll get it on your hand. So you're kind of continually looking and finessing, see where I can fix some things here. Okay, so I think we lost a little bit of our camera here, and I apologize for that. Hopefully we can kind of keep it rolling here, but I have been working to clean up some ovals here, maybe work on some proportions. I will stand back from this to just look and see what, make sure our camera is working, but also to see if things are straight, which I see things are kind of leaning a little bit, but not as bad as they could be. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to just kind of darken up some of these lines, and we might kind of wrap it up here a little bit. All right, so thanks for tuning in for this. We're going to move over to a different camera here in a moment, but I want to say thanks for tuning in. Thanks for drawing along with me. I hope that this was helpful, and if you like doing still life drawing, let me know. I definitely encourage you to do that at home and just play around a little bit with things that you have at home, even if they're like funky tools that you would never think of drawing. It will really help you have some hand-eye coordination. Next month, we'll have to do something a little less technical, and I think we deserve that, and so we'll probably do something like that. But I'm going to switch cameras, and let's take questions. Hey, thanks everybody. Thanks for being a part of this class. I am taking any questions that you might have, and I actually want to share a little bit of a story with you, why I think this is important and how it was actually relevant to some of my art practice. In about 2007, I was still in college in my undergrad degree, and I was getting a design degree. I also minored in painting and in English, but during that time I started keeping a sketchbook again, just for me, just kind of for fun. And I started drawing like kitchen tools, like a wine opener and just anything like that to help me kind of practice drawing and just kind of get in the groove of it. And so I feel like drawing is really, it's like lifting weights, and you get better, you get stronger the more that you do it. And as I kept that sketchbook, it really created a practice, and then it started blooming into me painting in watercolor again. And so I highly recommend, if you have a little extra time in your day, maybe you have a little less time watching TV or checking social media, you get out a sketchbook and you draw objects that are in your home or that you can observe, and you pick up some mediums that you don't always use. You might sketch it in your sketchbook and get out gouache or watercolor, colored pencils, and just really have fun and don't get too serious or too critical of yourself. Just do that for yourself, and it will definitely not only kind of give you time to grow, but also I find that it's sort of like a meditation that really allows your mind to kind of decompress, and nobody ever has to see that sketchbook. You can just do it yourself for yourself, and it will inform whatever kind of art practice that you have. So if you have questions, please throw them in chat. I know we have a bit of a delay here. Or if you have tips about your own sketchbook practice that you'd like to contribute to chat. But definitely, this is something I want to get out in the field a lot more to do this sort of thing. It's just a muscle, and we're exercising our muscle, and we're improving our art life and rendering process. So all right, well, I appreciate you all being here. I hate to keep you hanging on, but if you do have questions, feel free to throw them in chat. Otherwise, I'll let you go. And of course, with my students, if you would like to see something specific at any time this year that you want us to draw, I'm always down to be open to what you have to offer, what you'd like to see us draw or paint together. We've kind of split these classes into drawing and painting classes, but we certainly could do some pen and ink. I know that Jan would really like some pen and ink stuff, and I think that's great. We might jump into some other media as well, but I look forward to seeing you all next week. We'll do a little painting together. If you do have a still life and you do set up your own still life, I encourage you also just to take a photo of it so you can work from that as well, or at least share it with a group so we can kind of see what objects that you chose. So, all right. Well, nobody has put any questions in chat, so I'm going to take that as you don't have questions or you're busy drawing. So if you do have questions, throw them in our Facebook group. I appreciate you all being here, and I look forward to seeing you later in the week, or I guess next week. So take care and keep drawing out there.